The Tata Nexon has been a runaway hit for the Indian car maker and now comes with the much anticipated and awaited Nexon AMT or Hyperdrive. Call it a crucial piece in the turnaround strategy at the brand and you won't be wrong. What began with the Tiago in good measure in 2016 was partially carried on by the Hexa and Tigor, has now been thrust in the right direction by the Nexon. The subcompact SUV has sold over 25,000 units in its first 6 months since launch, and so it's only natural that Tata wants to expand on that. So, as was always expected, the Nexon now goes automatic with an AMT or automated manual transmission, or as Tata likes to call it, Hyperdrive. So, let's dive right into it. The Nexon gets a 6-speed AMT gearbox, and like its manual counterparts, the Nexon AMT also has the 3 driving modes, namely Sport, City and Eco, which you can switch on the fly using a rotary dial placed between the front seats. Now typically on an AMT, you lose that sense of power or that alacrity that you want, especially when you want to quickly overtake someone. So you want to downshift and get that nice burst of power. All right, nice rumblers on the road there. But the point being that Tata says its engineers have put in something called a kickdown mode on this car to provide you exactly that. Does it work? Let's see. All right, the response is almost typically AMT-like. But what happens if I put it into sport mode? Let's see.
Sport drive mode is activated.
All right, sport drive mode is activated. Now let's see. So it's not an absolutely instant sharp response, but it's certainly better in sport. So if you're driving on the highway, we suggest you stick to the sport mode. Even then, you have to plan your overtaking maneuvers in advance so that you're not left wanting for the surge of power when you most need it. But that's not a flaw on this car in particular. It is an impediment of AMTs in general. Let's take a look at the specs of the car I'm driving. This is the diesel, and nothing has changed between the manual and this, so really the numbers remain pretty much the same. And while I'm driving the diesel, Kingshuk has been spending time driving alongside me on the petrol. So that's a huge advantage, I think, the fact that Tata is starting this off, the Hyperdrive or AMT, with both fuel types as options. That's a good thing, isn't it, Kingshuk?
That's right. It's always a good headache to have when you're presented with more options. And that is precisely what Tata is doing with the Nexon AMT. Now, all that remains to be seen is how Tata prices the Nexon AMT variants and when does it launch them.
The Nexon AMT retains its good on-road manners, and we are happy to report that the ride quality remains as good as the manual variants that first came out 6 months ago. We had some twisties on our test drive route, and never did the car feel out of breath or depth negotiating them. That is until you get used to the AMT's delayed response, of course.
Interestingly, the 1.2-litre petrol engine and the 1.5-litre diesel engine on the Nexon AMT, they make the same amount of power, which is 108.5 brake horsepower. Of course, the diesel makes 260 Newton meters of torque, while the petrol makes around 170 Newton meters of torque. And the petrol engine, it feels a touch more engaging to drive. That's because when you mash the throttle, it feels more responsive. The gears shift quicker, and overall, the fun factor is a touch more in the petrol AMT option than the diesel AMT option. That's what I feel.
So looks like Kingshuk lucked out with a more fun twin there, but luckily they both look exactly the same. The car's unique stance and roofline do give it a hatchback-like look in traffic rather than an SUV, but it still works. So the Nexon's a good looking car to begin with. It is our design of the year as well, and I have to say that the two-tone with the grey, silver grey, whatever you want to call it, with this color in particular, looks much nicer than the white element that you saw running around the car on the blue or the other colors. So this one gets a thumbs up from me. Tata Motors will also be offering customization options on the Nexon AMT. There'll be two body kits on offer, which are the Active and the Aero. In fact, Tata had showcased the Nexon with the Aero body kit and has already launched it as well. Apart from that, customers will be able to choose the color of the body and the roof on Tata's online Imaginator platform. The Etna Orange will be offered on just the AMT, by the way, which is a cool idea. Now, we've known Tata to be aggressive with its pricing, and it's quite likely it's going to stay the course with the Nexon AMT too. I expect it to launch from the mid trims upwards, so should stay between 7 and 11 lakh rupees for both the petrol and diesel AMT versions. It is a great game plan for Tata to offer both petrol and diesel together. The subcompact SUV segment is only going to get bigger, and with the likes of Maruti carrying on delaying the launch of the Vitara Brezza Automatic and its petrol variant, it could prove to be a great opportunity for Tata to notch up even more sales for this bestseller.